Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Defining Discipline podcast. I'm your host, Scott. This is episode 361, as well as day 361 of my journey. At the beginning of the year, I challenged myself to run 365 days in a row, all outside, bearing the elements, whatever they may bring. I also challenged myself to run 1,500 miles within this yearly time frame and to run two major races within this yearly time frame as well. One of those races being a 50K ultramarathon trail race. That was the Yankee Springs 50K trail race out in Middleville, Michigan, on day 156 of my journey. I was able to run that 31-mile race within 7 hours, 15 minutes, and 22 seconds. The next race that came up within this yearly time frame was the Detroit Free Press Marathon on day 290 of my journey. And I was able to run that race, 26.2 miles, within 3 hours, 57 minutes, and 28 seconds. Both of those races were personal records for me, the 50K being the first ever 50K I ever ran and trail race I ever ran. So 31 miles wasn't the best time and wasn't the time I had in mind, but it is my personal record, being able to finish that race. And the marathon was a personal record for me as well. That was my first official marathon, but the wasn't my first actual marathon. I did run an unofficial one last year in 2020 with my buddy Joe when they canceled everything because of COVID. Me and him ran one ourselves, and I ran that really awful. And again, it was unofficial. So my first official marathon, I was shooting for a sub 4 hour time and was able to just obtain that. Now trying to push those limits within the next marathon coming up in 2022. But we're still here in 2021, so let's talk about that. Like I said, today is day 361, so did run those races on 156 and 290, so I was able to keep the streak alive since both of those races, and now we're here almost a full year within this year of 2021 of running every day. So let's break down the mileage for the day today. Today being the beginning of a new week, got out there and put in 1.5 miles for day 361. Kept it nice and short after yesterday's weekender of 18-mile day yesterday. Today, 1.5 miles. That started us at 1.5 miles for the week as well, since today is Monday. For the month, we are at 104.6, and for the year, we are sitting at 1,680. So we have surpassed the 1,500 mile mark of the yearly goal mark, is what I should say. The 1,500 mile yearly goal. Have surpassed it by 180 so far. The original goal was 1,250. Changed it within the middle of the year once I realized I was going to surpass that for sure. Bumped it up to 1,500. Have surpassed it. Now we're sitting at 1,680. We're going to see where we can kind of close this out. I'm kind of shooting for 1,700 even, but not going to get too greedy. Now next, let's go back and focus in on these monthly miles of 104. And I want to do so because every single month I challenge myself to run a 100-mile challenge, and I do it in honor of a charity in which I donate money to, as well as start a coinciding fundraiser to raise money and awareness for. First 11 months, completed all 100-mile challenges and raised money for 11 great charities. Now we're here in the month of December, the 12th month of the year, the final month of the year, and we're raising money for yet another great charity in this month's 100-mile challenge, that charity being St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So if you'd like to donate to St. Jude's Children's Hospital through this 100-mile challenge, you can find the link to do so on the Defining Discipline Instagram story or the Defining Discipline Facebook story. or my personal page's Instagram story, or my personal page's Facebook story. Within any of those stories, all you have to do is click within the link and it'll open up the actual page where you can make your donations. Keep in mind, all donations that get made to this fundraiser go directly to this fundraiser. Facebook, even though being the middleman, they have decided not to take any cut or percentage of the donations, unlike most companies that do donations like this. They like to take a portion of it as a payment process, or I guess a processing payment. But Facebook is not doing that. They are just transferring all funds over to the actual causes. So that is a really cool thing to keep in mind when making donations, knowing that every portion of your donation is going directly to this cause. I do know times are tough. Not everyone can afford to donate, and if that is the case, the next best thing you can do is you can just click on that share button, because we are trying to raise awareness for these causes throughout these months, and the best way to do so is to get as many eyes on it as possible. Other than that, let's just try to raise awareness and some money for this great charity here in the month of December for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Now, let's get ready to get into today's actual episode of 361. But before we do so, as always, a little teaser. We're going to go over today's word of the day for December 27th. Today's word of the day is livid. Livid means very angry, enraged, or furious. If I didn't already post about what today's episode is, livid would have been a good episode, but we'll get into that with today's episode. Today being day 361. Day 361, episode 361. Today's theme is control. And I want to talk about control because control is something that I think we have a huge misconception about. A lot of us think we have control over a lot of the things within our lives. I especially. So when I talk about this, keep in mind I am talking from experience. Things even as technology and the things that I spend money on, and I think I should have control over it. And when it doesn't work the way I want it to work, or when things don't always fall into place as I had planned, and things seem to get out of my control, I myself, to touch on today's word of the day, I start to get livid. I have a bad temper on things like that, especially when things that I think I should have control over go awry. And I wanted to talk about that because one, it's not healthy, it's not a good thing, and it's something I need to work on. But I also wanted to talk about control today for that reason, because the more I realize, the more I try to understand about control, the more I try to control itself, the more I realize is that everything is chaos, and control to an extent, yes, can be had, but there's a lot of things that are just out of our control. And for me, I used to worry about a lot of things, let them bother me, let them control me, because I was so worried about so many things that were out of my control. So one thing I really started to try to do over these last few years is realize that there are certain things that are just completely out of my control. And I can sit here and worry about it. I can sit here and think about it. I can sit here and bitch about it, complain about it. But it's not going to give me any more control over it than I have currently, and I have no control over it. And um, to truly, you know, realize that there's going to be things out of my control. And again, this is something that I think I always need to try to revisit, especially within um, those moments, because there's so many moments where I do get worked up and I do get livid. Another touch to today's word of the day. When I do get livid, do lose control. And still, even knowing, talking about it. So it's within those moments that I really need to try to find that control. And something I was, thinking about today when I realized I was going to do today's episode as control, is, and this is something I think is so spot on, and it's kind of one of those moments when I thought about it, it kind of like just hit me, like, and really was like, wow, so profound. And it's the fact that control isn't about what you control. Control is about how you can control yourself when you lose whatever it is that you had thought you had control over to begin with. And, really think about that. Control isn't about the things that you lose control of or the things that we think we're losing control of. It's how we control ourselves within those moments of losing them. And, it's deep, and it's really weird, and it's really kind of interesting to think about. And I guess I can kind of almost leave you on that note, because it is so interesting and so deep and so profound, I think, because a lot of us, within those moments of losing control, we lose control with it. And that's something I can say that I have done a lot of. And, really sitting there and thinking about it and reflecting on that. It's something I have been working on, but I know it's something that needs so much more work. I need to learn how to control myself within those moments so much better. And moving forward, that is something I'm going to do. I'm going to learn to control myself when all things lose control. And for your daily discipline today, it is going to be the same. It's going to be, having control over yourself when all else, is going to hell in a handbasket. When everything's falling apart, what kind of control do you have over yourself? Are you going to fall apart with it? Are you going to let it take you down? Or are you going to have some kind of control over how you're going to let that affect you, how you're going to let yourself react to that? That is kind of your daily discipline for the day-to-day, episode 361, about control. And, just to touch on it again, control is one of those funny things that we all like to think we have so much of. And again, with everything, even when we're driving, we like to believe we have control over so many aspects of being out there on the road, but there's so many outside variables. In driving, I guess, is a perfect example within that. But life in general is kind of like that. It's you do have a sense of control over so many things, but there's so many outside variables outside of that can really dismantle and kind of just pull away at the threads of that stability that you had, of control that you thought you had, I should say. So, How do you act to that? How do you react to that? How do you control your emotions? How do you control yourself when things start to unravel, when you start to lose control? And to realize that control, again, is something that control is very deceitful. It's something that we have very little over. We have control over some of our decisions, but mostly after anything after that, it's kind of a coin toss, kind of a flip of a coin. So, don't want to keep babbling on about control. It's just a great episode, I thought, and I wanted to really touch on it. We are 4 days away from closing out the year. 361 days have gone by this year. 361 days of running. It has been a great journey. It has been an unbelievable journey. And it's insane to think I'm this far along. Grateful for every moment and every second. Grateful to have put myself up to this, and excited to see where we're going to continue to take it. This is day 361 of the Defining Discipline podcast. This is episode 361, Control. I am your host, Scott. If you guys can, please give this podcast a like, a subscribe, a follow, a share on our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and whatever other podcast streaming platform you may be following along and listening on. Other than that, get your daily discipline done. Take control. Realize that that control is a very fickle thing, and to realize to really take control of yourself. How do you control yourself when you start to lose control? That is kind of your daily discipline. I kind of mixed it up there a little bit, but that is the gist of it. It is, how do you control yourself when you start to lose control? And it should be controlling yourself when you start to lose control of outside things. Other than that, though, thank you guys so much for listening, following along. Like I said, it's been a crazy journey. It's been a long year. It's been ups and downs, I can tell you that. Even just daily ups and downs as well. But thank you guys again so much. I will see you guys tomorrow for episode 362. Again, this is the Defining Discipline podcast. I'm your host, Scott. And until then, stay disciplined. Get your daily discipline done. Get your donations in for this month's fundraiser for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.